Shalom Aleichem. Hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week. This week is Parshas Lech Lecha, and we're introduced to Avram Avinu. And although he was mentioned at the end of last week's parsha, this is where we have our first introduction. Vayomer Hashem al Avram Lech Lecha me'artzcha meladkum beis avicha el ha'aretz asher eka. And Avram is known for the Asar Nisyonos, the 10 tests that he was given. But I want to harken back a little bit to a very, very famous Rashi that we have in the beginning of last week's parsha, where we know that in Parshas Noach, the Torah tells us that Noach was an ish tzaddik tamim haya b'dorosav es ha'elokim his halech Noach. And of course, Rashi very famously points out the extra word. Why does it have to say he's an ish tzaddik tamim b'dorosav? And indeed, Rashi is echoing the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Kufches. And the Gemara there indicates that, yes, there's a machlokas, yesh dorshim l'shvach, yesh dorshim l'gnai. Some look at this pasuk favorably to Noach, some less favorably. What would have been had he been in a door of, says the Gemara, Kufches Sanhedrin, in a door of tzaddikim? Maybe he would have been an even greater tzaddik had he had those good influences. Or the alternative is that l'gnai, had he been in a door of tzaddikim, says the Gemara, a different door of tzaddikim, says the Gemara, then he would have been somewhat ordinary. It wouldn't have been anything special. Rashi in last week's parsha goes out of his way to say, no, had he been in a door of other, in a different generation, maybe Kol Shekain, if he was in a door of tzaddikim, he would have been tzaddik yoter. But had he been in the door of Avraham, then he would have been lo haya nechshav l'klum. So Rashi doesn't look at it as a different generation of other tzaddikim, but specifically Avram. And Rashi's pointing out there's a direct contrast between Noach and Avram. The Beis HaLevi adds another interesting contrast. Again, this is in last week's parsha, but it's comparing Noach to Avram. Our pasuk in the beginning of Noach says, Es ha'elokim his halech Noach. Noach walked with God. Wonderful, beautiful. He walked with God. When it comes to Avram, the pasuk says that Avram was his halech lefanai veheyetamim. He walked in front of God. And the Beis HaLevi points out the different levels that Avram and Noach were on. Noach walked with God, together with God. He needed the support of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to withstand the challenges of a very, very terrible generation. And maybe yesh dorshim l'shvach, we don't look at him so negatively, perhaps because, yes, he understood his limitations. He needed the support. Had he perhaps done more kiruv, had he been out there more, he would have fallen with the rest of the generations. When you go and reach to someone to help them out of the mud, you might yourself get stuck in the mud. You might get muddy too. And that was why it's Es Halokim, his Salech no. Not so when it comes to Avram. Avram is his Salech lefanai. Avram was ahead. He was on his own. He stood on his own, of course, followed everything Hashem said, but he did not need the support, and therefore, Avram is known for the Bal Chesed par excellence, strangers in his house. He is the Makarev par excellence. Es ha-nefesh asher osu becharon, Avram Mekareves ha-anoshim, Sarah Mekareves es ha-noshim, totally out in a way that Noach was not. Perhaps most highlighted in next week's parsha, we'll read that when Hashem decides he's going to upend Sodom, he's going to destroy Sodom like he destroyed the world by the Mabul, he's going to take a whole city, a series of cities, a great city, out of commission. And Hashem says, Ha-mechasa ani me-Avram, can I withhold this from Avram? Can I not go ahead and share with Avram my plan? Let Avram have the chance to speak up, and of course he does. 50 tzaddikim, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10, and ultimately Avram says, okay, beyond that I can't do. But this vision that Avram is out to redeem the world, that's the godless of Avram. Avram is the doer par excellence. He excels as it's an amazing thing when you think about it. Imagine for a second if I told you LeBron James was an amazing, amazing violinist. It doesn't stim. He's going to be a great athlete. Or if I told you the great violinist is also a tremendous, tremendous athlete. Yeah, you might say LeBron James is a great tight end. That would make sense. Violinist doesn't seem to shtim. Avram excelled both in Ben Adam le Makom and in Ben Adam Chavero. He was a paragon. He was the LeBron, so to speak, lahavdil, of following the dictates of Hashem, Lech Lecha, the Akedah, and so forth. When it comes to Chesed, Ben Adam le Chavero, he was also a paragon of Gemilas Chasadim. It's the uniqueness of Avram Avinu, his specialness. We, of course, as being Zera Avram, have that as our legacy, that which we have to follow. And Bez Hashem, we should all be Zoche to be Mizera Avram. Have a wonderful Shabbos Kodesh.